And it's good to see everybody. I've been here a few times already, but this is my first time lecturing, so I'm really excited. Today we're going to be talking about opposite color bishops with heavy pieces on the board, which is a very important differentiator. Usually, opposite color bishops without in the endgame is a factor of what? Of equality, right? Draw, exactly. How about when we add the heavy pieces on the board? For the attack, they're much better for the attacker. They're a factor of improved advantage, okay? So we will see. There are two factors of assessment when we're looking at positions like that. One of them is the difference between the bishops. Whichever bishop is more active, whichever bishop has more targets to attack. And the other one, as you pointed out, is the initiative. The player with the initiative has a great advantage. Let's go through the game. This is a game between two grandmasters back in the days, in the 1950s, Filip and Pachman. Pachman is actually a guy that played Fischer a few times. I think he has an equal score out of maybe 10 games, so he's quite a talented guy. So Filip was white, Pachman was black. Knight f3, g3, g6. Okay, how do we call this setup for white? I think it's the Reti. Nowadays, that's how they call it. Actually, a lot of top players are starting to play this. It's a very flexible setup. You can adopt a lot of structures. For example, you can go with c4, d3. You can go d4. You can even go moves like b3. So very flexible, not a lot of theory, and players that have the confidence that can outplay anybody they play this a lot. d3, d6, and we've reached some sort of what type of structure? Sicilian, closed Sicilian with d3, right? Knight bd2, knight c4. What is white trying to do? Potentially, maybe play something like e5, open up the center, open up his light square bishop in the future, not at the moment. Where is black going to attack? On the queen side, right? So he played rook b8, preparing b5, getting away from this diagonal. It's always a useful move for black. a4, b6. Why didn't he play the move a6? This seems quite natural. a5, exactly. And now b5 is no longer possible. So always be careful at this type of structural changes. b6, c3, a6. Normal continuation. He's continuing with his plan. e5. Okay. Bishop b7. How is the structure in this position, guys? Who has the advantage from a structural point of view? Who said black? Why? Because of this pawn, right? Yes, very good. But white can get something in return. How? Very good. And that's what he played. If he would have traded on b7, which seems like a natural move, black takes. He's then going to go queen d6, rook d8. If this knight is ever going to go away from e5, which he probably will, since he doesn't have a lot of support, then the other rook goes to d7, and the d3 pawn ultimately will fall. So this is already a pretty bad position for white. Obviously, he wasn't he wasn't that weak, so he had a plan in mind. He played knight c6. This forces black to give away his light square bishop. Bishop takes c6, knight d5, queen b3, e6. Very, very natural developing moves, right, for both sides. Rook d8. Okay, and this is kind of the critical position of the beginning of the middle game. So you guys try to make a plan for black. What is the most kind of natural way you guys would be inclined to continue in this position? What is one piece that can be improved and could potentially become a real danger for white? Rook on b8? Why? How?
Well, it's protecting the pawn
right now.
Right. But it's not really doing anything else.
And potentially, she could become active if the b file opens up, right? Or she could scoop over on the a file or on the d file. Sure, the rook on b8 is quite flexible, but there's a different piece I'm thinking about, and I think I've heard from the back. The bishop on g7, right? This is a very, very important piece for black. Right now, he's facing a wall. So the usual plan in this position should include what? b4, right? Trying to break white's pawn structure. Now the question is, how are we going to make that happen? And that is exactly what he did, but that's a bad move. We will return to this position in just a second. Right now, try to find white's best option to continue the game. If you allow that dark square bishop to get active, then you're going to be in real trouble. So try to find a sequence of moves that could potentially like keep that guy locked up. What are the candidate moves for white in this position? Bishop takes d5 is one, yeah.
d4.
d4 can quite easily be refuted, I think. B takes c, and you're having some problems on the b file. You could try to take on c5, but then I can also just take on b3. You take my queen, I take on b2, and this pawn is going to promote one way or the other. Yeah. So black is almost winning, I think. So d4 doesn't really work. Bishop takes d5. Yes, c4 is actually the natural move. Yeah. You're going to keep the b file closed, but c4 also gives away the what square? The d4 square, right? So let's try to think a little bit further than that. Are we going to be able to contain his bishop after c4? Or his bishop is going to end up on d4 and create a lot of damage? So c4. Knight goes where? Where would you like to maybe direct that knight towards? What square? d4, right? So knight goes to e7. And here is kind of the key move of at least the first stage of the game. What does bishop f4 do? Exactly, exactly. Bishop f4 is the move. And this is what black missed at the beginning of his plan when he played b4. This bishop f4, now e5 is forced, otherwise you lose the rook on b8. And besides the fact that the bishop on g7 is locked, also it's highlighted over here, the d5 square for the bishop, right? So white got a clear advantage. We will see how he exploited it. But let's go back a little bit. In this position, if b4 fails because of c4, then bishop f4, and the dark square bishop is still locked, what should black do to prepare that? Rook d8 is a move, but as she pointed out, b5 is hanging. And actually you want that rook on b8, on the b file. Because after b4, if you open up the b file, then that rook is going to become super active. Queen somewhere, yeah? Queen c7, you're still not threatening b4, because with the queen on c7, you're still going to be on this diagonal. Queen somewhere. I would say probably queen b6 is the best move in this position. Queen b6, then b4 is coming, and to be honest, I believe black is actually better right now. Despite the fact that white is the one with the bishop pair, after this dark square bishop is going to become active, it is only black who can play for advantage. So he hurried up a little bit. Yeah, don't hurry. This is a static type of position. You have to change the structure. You're not going for the king, right? You have to prepare this type of moves. So queen b6 would have been the right move. He played b4, c4, knight d7, bishop f4, bishop e3, knight to c6, queen to a4. Okay, I want to ask you one question. He played knight d4, but what if black plays rook b6? What is he threatening in this position? Rook a7, right? Rook a7 to get control of the a file. So let's try to stop him from doing that. Let's calculate. Yeah, rook a1, interesting move. Very natural, yes. Rook a1, obviously black will respond with what? Rook a7, still rook a7, right? How to continue after that? Once again, let's look for candidate moves, guys. What is the most obvious candidate move? Queen retreats, yeah? Somewhere, b3, c2, d1. Well, d1 actually, I think it's, no, it's not. d1 is still okay. But the problem is, if you retreat your queen, I'm just going to play rook b a6. I'm going to get full control of the a file, and then black shouldn't be worse, right? Anything else? Any other candidate moves? What about just giving the queen away? What about just sacrificing it for the rook and the... Hmm? How is the position afterwards? Yeah, that's the question.
Probably queen c6 is better than queen a7. Maybe.
Actually, I think queen a7 is better. Because if you go queen c6... No, actually, you're right. Queen c6 is a good move. Queen a7 is also a good move. Let's say queen c6. Rook takes c6, only move. What happens if black tries to take on a1 first? Queen c8, queen e8, any of them work, intermediary check, and then take the rook, and you're a piece up. So he has to take with the rook on c6. We take on a7, And my question for you is, how is this position? Who has the advantage and why? Okay, so we have a rook and a bishop for a queen. Yeah? D3 is still hanging, sure. So that's one target for the queen. But I will tell you one secret. In these positions with imbalances, with material imbalances, a queen for something, a rook for two pieces, the importance of targets is huge. So the queen has only one target on D3, but that's going to be easily defended by playing what move? Bishop on D5, right? How many targets does white have in black's position? Quite a few, yeah? C5 is one of them, but it's not the main one. Which one is the main one? F7 is definitely the main one, because black doesn't have a correspondent for the white square bishop. So you're going to play bishop d5, then f7 pawn is going to be in deep, deep trouble. White is almost winning in this position. Rook c7, does rook c7 work? Go on, continue. So there's another target, the king, yeah? The eighth rank, the back rank. Rook a8, bishop f8, bishop h6, and black can pretty much resign. So this is a completely winning position. Let's say you go rook c8, I go bishop d5, you have to defend the f7 pawn, play something like rook f8, and then after rook a1, rook b7, rook a7, this pawn is going to fall, one way or the other, okay? Completely winning. And black is so losing because he cannot find counterplay. He cannot activate the queen, right? He cannot activate the bishop, he cannot activate the rook. So all his pieces are passive. White is completely winning. Let's go back. That's why rook b6 would have been a bad move. Knight d4. Another important point in the game. Candidate moves, options. We have two of them. I want you guys to find two of them. Bishop takes d4, that's one, yes. Bishop d5, that's the second one. You're doing pretty well tonight. Okay, so tell me the difference. Why one over the other? Take a few minutes, try to understand why one of them would be better than the other, and then we'll vote. Anybody eager to give it a shot? You have an idea? Share it with us. Perfect answer, yeah. Bishop takes d4 gives away too many options. He allows black to take with the queen. Now this pawn is going to become weak. We're going to, let's say, we're going to move it. Nevertheless, the d3 pawn remains a weakness. And now if you play your bishop on d5, what is black's extra option that he didn't have before? Rook takes d5, giving up the exchange, and then he's going to be down in exchange, a bishop and a pawn for a rook. Nevertheless, he's going to have a lot of targets to compensate for that. He's going to have the d3 square, the d3 pawn, the b3 pawn, and he doesn't really have a lot of weaknesses in the position. Both e5 and c5 pawns can be easily defended by the bishop, yeah? I can put my bishop on f8 if you threaten c5, or I can keep it on g7 if you threaten e5. So it's going to be very difficult for white to make any progress after black gives away his exchange. So that's why bishop takes d4 would have been a big mistake. Well, not that big, but still pretty serious mistake. Queen c7. Bishop takes d4. We have to get rid of that super strong knight on d4. E takes d4. What now? Who has the better position, guys, and why? We got the opposite card of bishops, right? The bishop on d5 versus the bishop on g7. And we also have all the heavy pieces on the board. Why is white better? It's stuck in there forever. I agree with that. Also, he doesn't have any targets, right? The bishop on d5 has a clear target, and that is the f7 pawn. What type of position is this one? The character of the position. Is it a static or is it a dynamic position? Static position. Slow paced, long plans, you know. We're not going for the kill. We're not going for the king right now. So try to create a plan based on that. Try to understand all your options first. Your plan is good, but you have better ways of making it happen.
Yeah. What happens if you play rook e6?
That's a terrible move. Rook e6, I'm just going to take on e6. And then rook f7. And then that's going to be oops. Yeah, game over. No, but I mean, what exactly do you want to do with your rook? Let's say I cannot take it, you know. Let's say I'm not going to take it. What are you doing with that rook on e6?
I'm going to c6.
It's kind of like a show off, you know.
No, I'm
You're
going
just
to
putting it on e6 and be like, okay, you cannot take it. Hmm?
I want to go take your c pawn.
Okay, you have a plan. Okay, okay, sure. But it's still not the type of moves that you guys should consider. Again, it's a static position, right? You're not going for the kill immediately. It's a long-term plan. Rook e2 is one way, but you have another way, much better than that. Rook e4, of course. So you have two similarly looking moves, yeah? Rook e2 and rook e4, the same plan. What's the differentiator between the two of them?
You can go to f4.
And that makes the rook on e4 more active, yes. I mean, why on e2 when we can go on e4? Not on e6. Don't go on e6. e4 is okay. Of course, also, remember your targets, the f7 pawn, right? So he played rook e4, of course. Rook e7. By the way, in this type of positions, how many pairs of heavy pieces can we exchange? In this position in particular, actually. If we exchange two, it's already too much. He's going to be very close to getting the draw.
If you exchange the rooks, then and keep the queens.
And then how can you create the attack? How can you put pressure on the targets? He's always going to have the queen as a defender, and we cannot increase the pressure enough. Yeah. He's always going to blackmail us with exchange of the queens, and it's just going to be a draw. So we have to exchange only one pair of rooks. That's the most we can exchange. So he played rook e1. What should black play? Hmm? Rook e8 was the trap I was looking for. You fell for it.
What a rook e8.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, rook e8, it looks like a good move. You're getting ready to exchange two pair of rooks, but now queen takes e8 comes and game is over. Well, yeah, it's pretty much over. Rook e7 would again be a show-off, which is not a good move.
Stop showing
Queen takes e7, rook takes e7, bishop takes e7. Thank you very much. Draw. Let's go home. Yeah. So, no, of course you're not going to do that. You're just going to, again, bring your pieces to the attack of the f7 pawn. So, I think rook a8 is perfectly fine. You're threatening to go rook e8, king g7, and now something like rook a1, rook a7. Big problems for him. Yeah. And what is black lacking in this position? Counterplay. Counterplay. He doesn't have absolutely any ways of getting to your king. He goes to e7, okay. He gives a check, okay. That's another powerful kind of idea when you have opposite color bishops. If your bishop is protecting the king, then he doesn't have a way to get to your king. Okay? So rook e8 would have been a mistake. He played bishop f8. What now? The first phase of our plan has been achieved. Queen a6, interesting move. But you're forgetting about the consequences of that move. If you play queen a6, what squares you no longer control? Rook b8, rook takes c4, exchange the rooks, draw, right? So be careful, be careful. You're one move away from allowing him to make a draw all the time in this type of positions. If you let him get his setup, he's going to exchange enough pieces, he's going to make the draw. You have to improve your position, but in the same time not give him any defensive resources. H4, absolutely, absolutely. You're creating new weaknesses with H4, and this is actually a move that a lot of good players like to make just to scare off their opponents. Even if it doesn't do much, you know, it's still asking some questions, and it works wonders, believe me. So he played H4, of course. King G7, H5 immediately. Rook d8. Or is black threatening? He has a small little idea. He's maybe trying to play rook d7, then take, then play rook e7 and try to exchange rooks, yeah? So white actually took first. Take. Now what? What is one piece that is not actively involved into the attack right now? The queen. Where should we take her? Queen d1, absolutely. Rook d6. Queen e2, bishop f6. Continue improving your position, guys. It's improved almost to the maximum, but you still have some ideas that you could incorporate. Such as what? King g2, very good. You're on fire tonight, very good, nice. King g2, of course, so what's the point of king g2? That's a good defensive idea, but there's also an attacking idea behind it. Hmm? Prepare rook h1, yeah, on the h file. Correct, very good. You guys are doing well. Rook to d7, threatening rook e7, of course. Queen f3, threatening h6, thank you. Queen d6. Take a few minutes and try to play better than the Grandmaster. He actually failed to see the winning idea in this position.
So did he not win?
No, he still won. but he allowed his opponent to kind of have a chance of survival, which he didn't take, but still. You guys need to be as precise as possible. And once again, you're only going to find the correct sequence by checking all your candidate moves in this position. So throw at me a few candidate moves. h6 is one of them, sure. Anything else? Rook h1, absolutely. Taking control of the h file. Anything else? Queen g4? Yes, queen g4 is an interesting move. Let's see. Queen g4. The problem with queen g4 is that, where are you going with this queen? Right, yes. You can do that also with the queen on f3. And the problem is that the queen on g4 is not really going anywhere. I'm still going to play this move, rook h1. And now maybe I'm just going to start hunting your queen to try to exchange it with something like queen e5 with the idea to go queen g5. Try to exchange the queen as soon as possible. If I manage to exchange the queen, then it's kind of game over. There's no more advantage to it. Actually, I think I'm making a mistake here. Yeah, I did blunder. h6, king h8, queen c8, queen takes c5, at least a pawn up. So, queen e5 was a bad move. Maybe I'm going to go queen d7. Also, this kind of plays against your idea, your other idea, with the queen on g4 to go to h3 and try to put pressure on the h file. So now you cannot go queen h3 anymore. And you don't have any active squares on the h file. h4 is blocked by the bishop h3 by the queen. So I have a feeling position is starting to become very drawish, you know. Okay, so let's calculate h6. h6, he has to go king takes h6, right? Well, he doesn't have to. He can also go king f8. If he goes king g8, then rook e8, and that's a checkmate, right? If he goes king f8, what could we do? Bishop e6. Very good. Bishop e6, and let's look at it. Take with the pawn, most probably. Take on f6, and in the worst case, you can just take a pawn, and this should be a winning endgame. Okay. So king f8 is not the critical move. The critical move is just taking the material, taking the pawn. 2 more minutes. Okay, maybe 1 more minute. because you guys already have the idea. So h6, king takes h6. Bishop e6. Yes. And that's almost game over. Let's look at it. The point is that the king is going to be trapped on the h file. And now you guys see why king g2 was so important in the build-up to this whole thing. Pawn takes, queen takes f6, rook h1. You cannot defend against it. So completely winning, yet he didn't see it. He was probably in time trouble. It's sometimes easy to miss this type of tactics. To be honest, I would have thought about bishop e6 first as a candidate move. And then I would say, okay, he takes, I play h6, and he can go king f7. And then you kind of forget about this whole idea. But it's just a matter of move order, yeah? I would assume that's why he missed it. So he played the move rook e4. Okay. Now you guys are going to be black, and you guys are going to try to find some good defensive moves. h6, very good, very good. h6 would have been a pretty good move. Or rook e7 first, rook f4, and now h6, right? And now you put your rook here, maybe rook goes to g5. White simply doesn't have a way to make progress anymore once you blocked him on the dark squares. So yes, big mistake by white with rook e4, allowing him a lot of extra chances. He played g5. Terrible move. Terrible move. Terrible move. Why is it a terrible move? From a conceptual point of view, why is it a bad move? You're weakening a lot of light squares, right? So, to be honest, I have no idea why he played this move. But he did, so white obviously took advantage immediately. h6. Okay. Let's try to calculate a little bit. What would you guys play?
I would play
f4? You see, that's the wrong concept. First of all, after f4, you allow rook e7, exchanging the rooks. You're also weakening your own king with f4, and you're not really creating such a difficult to parry threat. You're not threatening anything, actually. You're threatening to take on g5, and that will actually just give me more space. I will take with the bishop, and I will say thank you for the space. So rook e6, bishop takes f7, it's interesting, yes. Bishop e6 is also a candidate move, absolutely. Which, bishop e6? Let's see. Bishop e6, if I take, you take with the rook, queen f8, and queen g6, right? Queen g6, king h8, rook takes f6, and that's winning. But, that's the question. I think after bishop e6, black can simply play rook e7. And I'm not really sure if your attack is still going. No, come on, guys. What is kind of the most obvious move in this position? Something that puts more pressure on your opponent.
Can I answer?
Yes.
Rook e6 and then queen e6. Am I maybe?
Rook e6. I want to say it's a terrible move, but I'm not going to say it yet. It might be an okay move. It might be an okay move. Rook e6, f takes e6, bishop takes e6. And now you're trying to say that I don't have a defense against queen g6, yeah?
I was looking at rook b2 and then bishop
Which one?
e4.
No, let's calculate rook e6 because that's an important question she's asking. Maybe even that works. So rook e6, f takes e6, queen g6 or bishop e6. Which one? Hmm? Queen g6, king f8, queen takes f6, rook f7, let's say. Queen takes h6, and this is probably winning. Yeah, this is it's enough. You have a queen, you have a bishop close to his king. Yes.
Yeah, no. I mean, bishop f7, and we have a rook to lead.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
I don't see completely.
So rook e6 is one way.
Yeah.
Rook e6 is one way. He had a lot of ways to win in this position. Bishop takes f7. Let's look at it a little bit. He cannot take with the king because of queen g6, king f8, rook e8, checkmate. So let's say he takes with the rook. Queen g6, king goes to f8, only move.
Queen h6.
Queen takes h6, king goes to g8.
Rook e8 at some point.
Rook e8, rook f8. Let's look at it. I think I also have rook g7 in this position. Hmm?
Queen h8.
Queen h8, rook g8, only move. And I think we have to repeat the position here. So it kind of becomes unclear. You see this, you see that you have some sort of attack against the king, but you shouldn't go for it because it's not clear. And you have a clear advantage. You're not allowed to go into complications. Okay? Sure, yes. Rook e8. Rook e8 is it's a very obvious attacking move. You're just getting your rook on the 8th rank, getting closer and closer to the king. So let's calculate that. Rook e8, let's say I go rook to e7.
Now bishop f7.
Bishop f7 works, I think. No, actually, bishop f7 might not be that good because of queen c6. But you have a checkmate in 3 moves in that variation. Yes. Rook e8, rook e7, queen g6, f takes g6, rook g8, king h7, h takes g6, checkmate. Yeah. So you see, when the pieces are clustering around the king so heavily, something is going to happen, you know. So rook e7 allows a pretty cute checkmate. Yeah. So he's going to go, let's say, rook d8. Rook e6 works, yeah. Rook e6 is once again winning. Rook e6 is once again winning. Also bishop takes f7. Yeah, bishop takes f7 as well. The point is that after rook takes e8, queen g6, important. You don't want to just have a pawn, be a pawn up. You want to actually checkmate the guy. So queen g6, if king h8, queen takes h6, checkmate. If king f8, queen g8, and queen takes c8, game over. So rook e8 would have been completely winning. Once again, the Grandmaster went back, rook e1. I think somebody said rook e1. You did, yeah? You did play like the Grandmaster though, so that's good enough. Okay, rook e7, what now? Bishop e4. And I'm not going to lie, this is actually quite an easy idea to fall for, yeah? Because you're bringing the bishop to e4, you're creating that battery along the h7 b1 diagonal, and you're getting your queen very close to the king. So it's very attractive, but it's not the best. King f8, rook a1. It's still winning though. It's still winning. Rook d7, rook a5, bishop e7, bishop d8. You see, he's tying him up to his last piece. King g7, queen h7, and g4, rook c8. Slowly improving his position. He's not in a hurry. Black simply doesn't have any counterplay, so he's going to win no matter what. Rook c7, rook takes c8. Finally it's time to take some action. Queen takes h6, and what is the plan? Just push the h pawn, yeah? h6, bishop g8, h7. Once again, black lacks counterplay. That's his biggest problem in this game. Queen g8 he played. I don't know why he was still playing, but I think he finally resigned, yeah? King c8 only move, bishop takes f5, bishop takes h7. Completely winning, right? So this was an example where we have static positions, okay? There's also examples where we have dynamic positions, and in those we do not have time to improve our position to the maximum like we did in this game, right? Where we have a dynamic advantage, we have to attack the king and not give our opponent any breathing room. But when you have a static position, always improve it to the maximum. Do not hurry. That's kind of the biggest draw from this example.